Welcome to the podcast for and about Colorado Springs. I'm your host, Brittany Felix, and every Monday through Friday I'll be talking about a different aspect relating to the Springs, including upcoming events, restaurant reviews, local business spotlights, media coverage about the Springs, public works projects, local activities, answering your questions about the city, and much, much more. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any of the updates. And also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find links to all of those social media accounts at springspodcast.com/social media. The Colorado Springs podcast is proudly sponsored by Elevation Hydration. Elevation Hydration is the only hydration therapy clinic serving Colorado Springs, and they are dedicated to helping you elevate your life. They use intravenous vitamin therapy to help athletes needing a boost of energy or help recovering after a tough competition, people experiencing cold-like symptoms or dehydration from the flu, anyone needing to recover quickly from a rough night out. I'm looking at you, college kids. And just anyone wanting a healthy alternative to preventative care. They have a wide variety of hydration packages to help address whatever your needs are. They're conveniently located inside Lush Beauty Lounge at 812 Village Center Drive, and if you mention this podcast during your visit, you'll receive $10 off any hydration package. To learn more about Elevation Hydration or to schedule an appointment, visit springspodcast.com/hydrate. Welcome to episode 15 of the Colorado Springs podcast. Today is Free for All Friday, and this week I'm going to have a guest on the show for you. Corey Brown is the founder and owner of Elevation Hydration. If that name sounds familiar, it's because you've been hearing an advertisement for it at the beginning of every single Colorado Springs podcast episode so far. Elevation Hydration is a sponsor of this show, and I was so proud to partner with them and help get the word out about Corey's business because I think what he's doing for the residents here in the Springs is absolutely amazing and everyone needs to know about it. So if you are into fitness, being healthy, if you are suffering from illnesses or chronic migraines or fatigue or don't feel like being sick this winter, or if you just want to take a more natural approach to preventative health care, you are going to love this episode today and you're going to love Elevation Hydration. So let's not waste any more time and dive right on in with Corey. Well, Corey, the listeners have been hearing me talk about Elevation Hydration for the past couple of weeks. The ad's been at the beginning of every episode, and I'm so excited to have this chance to talk with you and really kind of explain what Elevation Hydration is and who you are. So to start off, do you mind giving us a little bit of a background on yourself?
So I have lived in Colorado Springs for most of my life, and I've always been a very huge outdoor enthusiast ever since I was a little kid. Our parents raised my brother and I kind of in the outdoors. We went on a lot of camping and fishing trips. Did a lot of rafting growing up, mountain biking, rock climbing, pretty much anything outdoors. You name it, we did it. We just loved being outdoors, and great state for it, obviously. So my biggest accomplishment, however, is being a husband and a father. I have a little daughter named Bristol. She's about to turn 2 in January, and she's just my world. She's a ton of fun to hang out with. So yeah, that's what keeps me busy. But I also enjoy going to the gym and spending time with other family and friends, and most of my family's here in town, so it works out pretty good.
Okay. And so what has your professional career been like throughout the years? What has led you to starting Elevation Hydration?
Well, I started as an EMT about 10 years ago, and I eventually worked my way up to being a paramedic. I worked full-time on the ambulance here in town for a majority of that time, responding to 911 emergency calls for service. Shortly after my daughter was born, however, I went part-time on the ambulance and eventually ended up quitting altogether in December of 2015, so about a year ago. A majority of this year, though, was spent helping my wife launch her new physical medicine practice here in the Springs, and then I started Elevation Hydration in July. And the progression for me was relatively natural, obviously coming from the ambulance because I had been involved in the medical field for a while now, and so it was an easy transition. But I started the business for a few different reasons. The first was being that Springs residents needed a service like this to keep them healthy, or at least get them back to their daily life instead of spending time recovering on the couch, you know. Denver has several hydration clinics to choose from. However, we shouldn't have to drive all that way in order to stay healthy. We need something local.
Right.
The other reason has to do with my personal belief when it comes to health and wellness. Working on the ambulance for, 10 years, a majority of the patients we saw were reacting to a health crisis rather than proactively taking charge of their health. And I have been a patient and a provider on both the traditional Western side of medicine as well as the more natural kind of holistic side. And for me, the proactive side of health very much coincides with my purpose line. It's what I absolutely believe in and what I want to promote. And I think these days, a lot of people are kind of starting to wake up and realize, there are other options out there. I don't necessarily need to go to my doctor every time something's wrong and get a pill. Pills mask symptoms. They don't fix the problem. And so it's nice to be able to offer Colorado Springs residents and even the tourists that come in and visit our state, an option, hey, you're not feeling so good. Let's do something natural. We don't need to get you into the ER and waste your day.
Right. And so for those who aren't familiar with the term of a hydration clinic or really what that means, do you mind explaining that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Elevation Hydration, we're the only intravenous vitamin therapy clinic in Colorado Springs. And I guess the simplest way would be to explain it is you come in and it's IV therapy. So yes, there is a needle stick. I know not many people like needles, but it's a pretty simple, painless procedure. And so you get an IV placed in your arm, and then based on whatever symptoms they might have or what goals they want to accomplish, we either select a hydration package based on what they want to do, or we can make recommendations. But we'll put in different vitamins and minerals into that hydration package, and then the infusion itself takes about 45 minutes or less. And so that's kind of what that entails. It's relatively easy.
Okay. So if somebody were to come in, I mean, I'm sure that you have probably a lot of common things that people come in for, but what are the type of things that people tend to get treatment for?
One of the more common ones, and especially this type of year, is going to be kind of the Hangover Package. The Hangover Package is kind of popular because of how well it works. You're going to see an alleviation of your symptoms or outright just disappearance, I guess, of symptoms relatively quickly. So that's one of the more popular ones. But we also have a ton of outdoor stuff here in our state, obviously, and it's pretty much right in our own backyard. So the hydration packages for athletes are pretty popular as well. One of them I call the Weekend Warrior, just kind of a basic hydration package that includes B-complex vitamins, B12, and then all the hydration packages are 1 liter of fluid. And then the Olympian is kind of catered more towards your professional athlete or your competitive athlete. Comes with a bit more ingredients in that just to kind of help with muscle recovery, fatigue, and whatnot. So those are pretty popular as well. And then obviously when we hit the winter season, people start getting sick. So the Immune Tune package is pretty popular as well because, people don't want to spend time being sick, staying at home, not doing whatever it is they do. So the Immune Tune comes with vitamin C and D, zinc, and then glutathione, which is really good. It just, all those help to boost your immune system and kick that cold out quicker.
So is this something that people should take before they get a cold, or can they take it afterwards to help shorten the length of it?
They can do both. Obviously, like if you come down with the flu, I can't make any promises as to what that hydration package is going to do. The flu can be pretty brutal. Mm-hmm. But if you feel yourself coming down with something, it's always good to come in and just get that immunity boosted as soon as you can, because it's going to help kick that cold out of your system a little quicker. But also, if somebody's experiencing some symptoms and they want to come in like during that cold, all the stuff in the Immune Tune is definitely going to help boost that immunity. And anything you can do, obviously, to boost that immunity, you're going to kick it out of your system quicker.
Right. And so what's the difference between something like this and taking a product like Emergency or just taking, vitamin C supplements?
Emergency and vitamin C supplements work very good, but one of the things, I guess the biggest differences, and it involves vitamin C, is going to be how much you can take orally versus intravenously. So you'll hit a threshold with vitamin C where you kind of start hitting those undesired effects, like your GI system hits a point where it can't take any more, and so it starts causing like diarrhea, which can kind of be beneficial because you're flushing all that out of your system, but then again, diarrhea leads to dehydration. Mm-hmm. So when you do anything intravenously, there's a couple different ways to attack it. With vitamin C, you can do much higher dosing and get that therapeutic range, but you don't have to hit all those side effects like the diarrhea and whatnot. But also, too, if you're just going for like some basic wellness or whatever, you can do a lower dose because since you're bypassing the GI tract, you're getting 100% of that vitamin. That's one of the things people should know, that, when you take vitamins orally, we have these built-in systems in our body that help break down and filter and all that good stuff, and then eventually kicks out the medicine into our circulatory system. But due to those normal processes, we can lose sometimes up to 50% of that vitamin. And so we're not getting all of that vitamin. And so when you do stuff intravenously, like I said, you're bypassing the gastrointestinal tract. Therefore, you're getting 100% absorption. Therefore, you're getting all the vitamins. So you actually don't have to take as much sometimes.
Okay, so if somebody were taking this, as a preventative measure to try and avoid getting sick over the winter season, do you recommend that they do it regularly, or is it a one and done kind of a thing? What's that like?
Honestly, it's going to be up to them. It's going to be their preference. I do have a couple of clients right now, a mother and a daughter, that come in every week, sometimes every 2 weeks, and get an immune tune. She does kind of have some conditions that have suppressed her ability to just kind of fight off cold, flu, anything that's invading her body. She's got that suppressed immune system, so they come in kind of often. But if you've got somebody who's pretty healthy, and they do pretty good, but at some point during the winter they come down with something or like, man, this is no fun, I need to get better, I would recommend just coming in for a kind of one and done deal and picking the immune tune and then get that administered and then go home and just take it easy,
Right. Okay. Now, I'm curious. The name, your Hangover Package is intriguing. We have some college kids here in this town, just a few.
Oh, yeah.
Do you mind talking about that package and just kind of what it can really do to help somebody? I mean, I'm assuming it's not only just for hangovers, but obviously there's a reason it's named that.
Yeah, so the Hangover Package is pretty popular, like I mentioned earlier, because of how well it works. I kind of developed the name because when you think of hangover, it's like, it's not fun. You want it gone pretty quick. Yeah, exactly. So I kind of named it. People have to go to the website to see the name, but Hangover to get rid of it. So we have 20 breweries in Colorado Springs. Actually, I think it's more than that. And obviously we love our craft beer here. So sometimes you go out with your friends and you just have one too many, and then you get all those typical hangover symptoms the next day, and it's not fun. So when people drink alcohol, we expel roughly 4 times that much liquid, which obviously can lead to dehydration, especially here in Colorado. Like, I don't drink enough water as is. A lot of my friends are guilty of that. So we're dehydrated in general.
I'm probably the most guilty person you'll ever meet of that. I despise water.
I love water. I just don't drink enough of it. I'm too busy and I just don't pay attention. But when we're dehydrated, our organs, they like to fight each other for fluid because obviously they need that fluid to function properly. One of the places they like to take it from is the brain. So this causes the brain to atrophy, which means to shrink, and it pulls on the membrane that attaches our brain to our skull. So you're literally feeling that physical brain pain of your brain stretching and pulling on stuff. So the hangover cure works really well because even if we didn't add anything else to it, you're hydrating the system again to kind of expand that brain. It's not tugging on that membrane, so that headache goes away. But we include B-complex vitamins for energy, we have Zofran for nausea, and then we also include Toradol, which helps with the headache and just kind of like generalized aches and pains. It's like a liquid Advil or Aleve. It's just administered in IV form.
So how quickly do people usually start seeing, the effects of that treatment?
Pretty quick. The Hangover Package is one of those where I definitely get a pre- and post-treatment score to see what the improvement level was. But the clients that I've treated so far have seen really good results. A majority of them, and I would say this is probably 90% or higher, have gone from whatever their score was to where, yeah, this is a pretty brutal hangover, to when they're done, they're like, yeah, I feel great. I don't have any symptoms. And that's obviously what we want to accomplish, And it's funny, like, working on the ambulance, you would be surprised how many people call for a hangover. It's one of those things where ambulance isn't really for a hangover, but sometimes you're just not feeling good, To be able to keep people out of the ER and away from those copays and the long waits and all that, you can get your day back in an hour. It's worth it.
Right, absolutely. So I'm interested. I know that we have talked about, just kind of in our pre-interview chat, that you have a focus on B12 injections. Do you mind explaining what those are and what those can do for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So B12 is a very common micronutrient deficiency among a lot of individuals. So B12 is very vital for many functions in the body, but to break it down and kind of hit some of the bigger points, it's going to increase your energy, your immunity. You're going to have better sleep because it regulates your sleep-wake clock, and then it also kind of elevates your mood, gives you a more positive mood and outlook. So that's one of the things I like to offer to people because it is such a common micronutrient deficiency. A few weeks ago, I was just curious. I called my old primary care doc, and I asked them what they charged for a B12 injection. And I was actually really shocked. They told me it was $65 for one injection, which in my opinion is pretty excessive. You can do single B12 injections if you like, which are $25, but you can also do B12 bundles as well, which saves you money and typically consists of like 5 shots, 1 a week, and get your B12 levels back up to where they need to be. The other thing, too, about our B12 that I want to tell people is there's two different kinds of B12. There's cyanocobalamin and methylcobalamin, and I don't want to get too fancy for everybody. We'll keep it simple. But cyanocobalamin, once it's injected, takes a little bit to break down, and after all that process of breaking it down and all that, you're only left with a very little bit of the actual good form that you can use versus the kind that I use, which is methylcobalamin, which is already broken down, ready to go, like you inject it, and you get 100% of that vitamin, and it's ready for immediate use. So people are going to see a more noticeable benefit with methylcobalamin, which is what I use, versus cyanocobalamin.
And what's so interesting about this, and we've obviously talked about this via email prior to this interview, but it's only just now clicked that, as odd as this sounds, my dog has actually, we've had to give her B12 injections for about the past year because
interesting.
She's had a deficiency of it. And she has a whole other host of issues. She has 2 rare stomach conditions and a seizure disorder.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it's never occurred to me that, obviously humans could have this deficiency as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, is this something that somebody who just kind of never seems to have enough energy throughout the day, maybe they don't sleep very well, they just kind of need an extra boost to get them through? Is this something that would be good for them as opposed to, just chugging down coffee or Red Bulls?
I would recommend it due to the fact that it's such a common deficiency among people. Obviously, there are tests. You can get some lab work done and get your levels drawn and see where you're at. But it is one of those very common deficiencies. And so I would recommend doing that, yes, because it's such an essential vitamin for so many different processes in the body that more than likely, if you're suffering from that fatigue or your mood's not the greatest, you're not sleeping well, it could very well be related to a B12 deficiency. It's relatively easy, too, to get that fixed. Like I said, you can go get your labs drawn, see what your B12's at, and be like, you know what, I need to supplement with some B12. The injection takes less than 2 minutes, tiny little insulin needle, it's not bad, and you're done. And get those B12 levels back up where they should be. And you're going to notice, and it may take a few days, it may even take a couple weeks, but a majority of my clients are like, yeah, I've noticed I'm sleeping better, I'm happier, I have more energy, all these positive benefits that we're going for.
That's so interesting. And I think that is something that probably would be beneficial to me because I have all those same things. I don't sleep very long at night. I generally only get maybe 6 hours of sleep at night. And I actually have a Fitbit, so it tracks my sleep. And in a 6-hour time period, it'll mark that I was restless, 12 different times. So I'm obviously not getting a deep, restful, restorative sleep. And I'm just, tired throughout the day, which of course makes me grouchy.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's very interesting. And that's something I never would have really thought could be a contributing factor. I just have always, I've always been this way. I've never really been able to sleep very well.
Yeah.
And just kind of assumed, well, if I can just work on sleeping better. But of course that, that never happens.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, too, like between our diets and how busy everybody is these days, it's not always easy to get into a good, healthy routine. And even if we do, there's such a large percentage of people that take multivitamins and they're still micronutrient deficient, even though they're taking a multivitamin.
Right.
So, and just B12 deficiencies alone. If you take, I have a long list here of antacids, female hormones, oral contraceptives, anticonvulsants, anti-inflammatories, diabetic meds, or antiviral agents, any of those medications, those categories, you're going to most likely be B12 deficient. Because although that med is doing what it's supposed to do, it's going to alter other processes in your body. And one of those processes could be the way you absorb the B12. And it can also do with your lifestyle. Everybody has a different metabolism, so it depends on how you deal with that drug once it's injected or taken. So it depends on a lot of things, but there are so many things that do affect vitamin absorption in the body, and so B12 is one of those.
Okay. And so to kind of switch gears a little bit, you and I have talked about it, and it's one of the things that made me so excited to partner with you, on this podcast. My father is undergoing treatment for prostate cancer, and it's pretty severe. He just recently actually went from Indiana to a place out in California to receive kind of a more holistic treatment and an approach to his treatment as a way to avoid going through chemotherapy. And one of the things they put him on was intravenous vitamin C therapy.
Yes.
So is this something that is common for cancer patients?
It's still considered pretty alternative, and most insurance companies won't cover it. But it is kind of starting to gain some traction. There's been a lot of studies on it. Some people believe in it, some people don't. I'm really sorry to hear about your dad. I know as we spoke earlier, too, I told you that my father is currently undergoing cancer treatment as well. And one of the things that we're doing for him is some high-dose vitamin C treatment here in the office. So vitamin C, like I said, it has those undesired effects taken at high levels, but to really hit that therapeutic range and do what it is intended to do in the body, you've got to hit that super high range, and you can't accomplish that with oral doses of vitamin C. And so intravenous is the way to go. You're able to hit those therapeutic ranges and really decrease the oxidative stress in the body and kind of help kill off those cancer cells, or at least, and I should say, boost the immunity as well. You boost that immune system, and it's able to fight and do what it was designed to do. So, and that's to kill the cancer and heal itself.
Right. Now, I'm a little bit curious about going from your background of your own experience, both professionally and personally, with Western medicine. What is it that attracts you so much towards a more holistic approach as opposed to a traditional Western approach?
Well, my wife is going to love this story. So my wife is a chiropractor here in town. And like I said earlier in the podcast, she runs a physical medicine office here in town. So there is a medical doctor, a physician assistant, and then my wife, the chiro, on staff. And prior to meeting my wife, working on the ambulance, man, I was cut and dry all about, like, go to the hospital, go to the doctor, do all this stuff, you know. And once I met her, she didn't force the issue, which was nice, but she slowly started opening my eyes to other ways of dealing with sickness and staying healthy and treating conditions, and not always having to go to the doctor to get a medication, you know, because like I said, medications, yes, they do work, but they mask symptoms. And what we want to do is, you know, give the body a means to fix itself. I've enjoyed the transition. I still believe that Western medicine has a place in the society, obviously. We're going to need those services, surgery, stuff like that. It's always going to be needed. But I think if people started switching their stance and their viewpoint from always being reactive to proactive and just taking the time to get healthy, stay healthy, and work on those big areas, you know, that's kind of a big deal to me. That's why my focus has shifted a little bit. So that's kind of how I feel about that. I still appreciate the Western side of things, but I want to be able to offer people a solution that is cost effective, it's safe, and they don't have to go to their doctor every time.
Right. So I have a question, and it's kind of a selfish one because I want to know personally for myself. I have suffered from migraines ever since I was a 4-year-old.
Okay.
And, you know, went the traditional Western medicine route, had all kinds of CAT scans and all kinds of things done. They eventually told me they were just vascular headaches, or, you know, there was just issues with not getting enough blood flow to my brain, and I would grow out of it. And I'm 30 years old and still haven't grown out of it. I had a killer migraine this morning.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Is there anything that you guys do that would help, maybe not necessarily cure it, because oddly enough, you mentioned your wife as a chiropractor. Going to the chiropractor is the only thing that alleviates the pain that in my experience so far. Yeah. But are there any treatments that you would have that you could recommend for somebody who deals with chronic migraines?
Yes, I would actually recommend the Myers cocktail. And the best way to describe the Myers cocktail to people is it's kind of a supercharged multivitamin in a bag. And it was developed, I want to say like 30 to 40 years ago by Dr. John Myers, I believe. And he's been using it in the hospital ever since. It's relatively common treatment, actually. They call it a banana bag in the hospital based on how it looks when you inject the B complex vitamins. It turns the bag yellow, and they call it a banana bag. But the Myers cocktail is really good at treating a whole bunch of stuff. They use it for acute asthma attacks, migraines, chronic fatigue. You can use it for acute muscle spasm, respiratory infections, allergies. I mean, there's just a whole bunch that you can use it for based on what's in that package. So the Myers cocktail comes with B complex vitamins, B12, vitamin C, calcium, and magnesium. And between those vitamins and minerals, it's going to kind of help restore and upgrade, I guess, the functions in our body. Because of the fact that they do use it for so many conditions, when you supplement with all those vitamins and minerals, you're kind of putting everything back into homeostasis, everything back where it needs to be, essentially. And so the Myers cocktail is actually a really good solution for migraine headaches. Is it going to work for everybody? No, I can't make that guarantee. But a majority of my clients that walk in the door, no matter what kind of treatment they are receiving, they walk out of here feeling better, more energized, and just kind of ready to go.
So for somebody who's coming into your location for the very first time, they've never had any kind of hydration therapy or, you know, intravenous vitamin therapy, what can they expect?
Well, as far as the process goes, it's relatively easy. So what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll fill out a brief 2-page medical questionnaire, and then they select a hydration package based on either their current symptoms or, let's say they're an athlete. We'll pick one based on what kind of goals they're wanting to achieve. We can also make recommendations if they aren't quite sure. Once the paperwork is done, we will build their hydration package, and then they just get a chance to relax in a comfy chair while their vitamin infusion takes place. So during that time, they can just kind of hang out and they can sit on their smartphone, they can rest, they can watch TV, whatever it may be. If they're really happy with their service, I am totally cool with them tagging me on Instagram and telling all their friends. That's always good. But like I said, most of the infusions take about 45 minutes or less. So it's a relatively nice break from the day. You're doing something for your health, which is always nice. And it's just a nice relaxing break. You sit in a chair and just kind of hang out. And then you're giving your body stuff it needs to function at an optimal level. It's not something where you come in and just sit in a chair and get a needle shoved in your arm. I want it to be an experience for people. And like I said, it's kind of that small break from the norm, a little bit of treatment. You know, you can pamper yourself, come in, get some good stuff, head out the door and tackle your day no matter what it is you're doing.
So one more question, really, before we kind of wrap things up. My husband is going to be attempting the incline soon for the first time, and he's in
Nice.
Yeah, he's in pretty good shape, much better shape than I am. I have no doubt that he could do it, but for somebody who's going to attempt the incline for the very first time, or, you know, maybe they've done it before, but they just kind of want that extra boost to help get them up it, what package would you recommend for them?
I would make 2 recommendations for them. I would recommend the Elevate, which is just our basic hydration package, and it comes with B12. And obviously all the benefits of B12 that we talked about earlier is going to help give them that boost of energy. The other package I would recommend would be the Weekend Warrior. And that one's going to include B-complex vitamins as well. So that's just going to help with your energy levels and a whole bunch of other very necessary functions in the body. I think either one of those is going to get them up the incline, and also probably the hydration alone. When you get done with the incline, it's tough. It's no joke. You might be pretty fatigued, especially your first time. So those packages are going to help with the recovery afterwards as well. You're not going to feel very sluggish and all that like you typically would if you're not drinking the amount of water you should and you go out and do something very strenuous such as the incline.
Okay. So to kind of wrap things up here today, do you mind telling us a little bit about where you're located and what your hours are and how people can reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. Our hours of operation are going to be Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we're open on Fridays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday are going to be by appointment only, but all scheduling can be done through my website, which is super easy. And when people go to the website, they can pick the hydration package that they want. And they also have the option to purchase add-ons at that time, such as like extra vitamins or nausea medication or whatever it may be. We are most active on Instagram and Facebook, and I would also encourage listeners to visit our website to sign up for our newsletter. And I'm actually in the process of moving out of my old storefront right now into my new one. And I think by the time this podcast launches, we will be in our new retail space, which is January 1st is when we're moving in. We're going to be at 812 Village Center Drive. And that's right here in Colorado Springs, up in the Rock Rimmon area. And we will be located inside of Lush Beauty Lounge. If any of your listeners want to come in and try intravenous vitamin therapy, they can mention that they heard about us on the Colorado Springs podcast, and I will give them $10 off of any hydration package that they choose.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that generous offer. And I highly encourage anyone listening to go check out their website, which is hydratetoelevate.com. I will have links to everything, the website, social media accounts, packages, all of that on my website, which you can find at springspodcast.com/hydrate. Corey, thank you so much for being here today, and I am just so excited to partner with you and to help you spread the word about the amazing things that you're doing for the residents here in the Springs.
Well, absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you very much, Brittany.